Everything that is a trending action inevitably becomes the normal reality. I worry for the youth of this generation and I pray for them, and I love every child in the entire planet. So I'm going to make this video because it's concerning. I will make extremely controversial statements without caring, because I am doing this for the youth, and the parents need to teach this to their children. And if you are watching this and have a child and they are confused, you made it to the right video. As a parent, you feel you need to be inclusive because you fear being judged by society for something that you really aren't. But you should not be worried by people's words, but rather raising your children the right way. You are teaching your children that they should fear mispronouncing someone's pronouns, or that it's okay to explore sexuality and gender as if it's just a normal after-school activity. Our children aren't born prejudiced, they're born curious. Just like racism isn't born into a child, it is taught to them by their parents or guardian. We should teach our children not to judge, but we should also teach them not to accept everything that's going around them as normal, because that's not the proper route either. Proverbs says, pride goes before destruction. It is better to be with the lowly and oppressed rather than to be around the proud. And pride is seen everywhere today. Anyone who is in the LGBT whatever community, and I'm not being insensitive, I just don't know. And I've studied a lot on this, but just not the letters, because I'm like, it's always changing. But pride is seen everywhere today, and they protect it with a proud confidence, right? Like, oh, you can't tear down the gay community, and they attack anyone and try to ruin anyone's career just for speaking out against it. Pride is taught in schools, pride is taught on children's networks, and it's taught so strongly that children know what it is before they even reach middle school. It is also taught very strongly that it's okay to change genders as a child. Now, let's talk about Abigail Martinez, a mother who lost her 16-year-old child to suicide. She spoke up to the California schools about how she doesn't want her daughter changing, but the LGBT community took away the daughter from her and continued to administer the hormone therapy, causing her to realize that this decision she was making was not the right one. The group was urging her to go through with this therapy, saying, this is the true you, this is who you are, and they were getting into her head. The state of California is prioritizing this gender ideology rather than a mental state of well-being and proper communication to the children. What the children need is the truth about how God created them, and that they are already perfect as they are. See, the thing about feelings is that they lead us astray, and we listen to our feelings rather than our logic. Each of our genders has been given to us with a purpose. We must love ourselves. The presence of confusion is not a sign that someone is confused about their gender. Statistically proven, 60% of transgender individuals have a problem with excessive drinking and excessive drug use. About 44% of transgenders have had an incident with suicidal thoughts, and at least 17% of them have attempted suicide recently, and 35% of transgenders have committed self-harm. And overall, the majority of 82% of transgender individuals have sought mental help. Then we can talk about the hormone blockers, the Lupron, which has side effects of mood disorders, cognitive impairment, and to the youth puts an increased risk of strokes, heart disease, heart attacks, heart failure. But see, this is just in the early ages. We have just started this, just like vaping. We don't know the long-term side effects as we do with cigarettes. It might be worse. A person's gender does not come from a neurological structure deep within the brain, but it's given to you and it's assigned to you at birth. There's two types of genders, and we cannot debate this. You can say that, oh, non-binary is another gender, but think about it. Non-binary is the lack of gender, that you do not identify with the gender, which is the they, them community. Hence why I do not add non-binary to the gender list. And gender fluid is a way where you fluctuate throughout, but it is not specifically another gender more than the already base two genders. But see, what's common, if you are changing genders, you either pick between a male or a female. Where is there a third one? Even intersex, where there is two genders, you still have to pick one or the other, male or female. 500 years from now, when the archaeologists are digging up our bones, what are they going to see? They're going to see male and female, just as they do in their current day. The XX and the XY chromosome will never change. I think the generation is confused, deceived, and the questions are not being answered properly. Do not be misinformed and teach your children deception that is clearly being pushed around everywhere, which is the gay agenda. Now, a lot of people are like, there is no gay agenda because they're in the gay agenda, so they will obviously be unaware because they are already mentally stuck there. For this reason, man will leave his father and mother and go to unite with his wife, and they will become one flesh. It is written in scripture for a man to be with a woman. Even those with same-sex attraction, after they get saved, they still have these thoughts, but it's about choosing to stop living that worldly lifestyle. Because honestly, this is my opinion, but I'm going to just say it anyway, that all feelings towards a partner of the same sex is all based off lust rather than true love. Because honestly, where will you get that nurturing care if you're a woman, and that masculine energy from if you were with another woman? As a man, where will you find that comfortness from a woman who is supposed to nurture you and take care of you? Where will you find that in another man rather than just more masculinity into your life? It's all lust. In time, I believe that we can learn to let go of those desires to be as God intended us to be. Look at the animal lifestyle. Where is there an animal with another male? Where's there gay relationships in animals? Where do you see it? You don't, because that's not the divine way of life. And our emotions have taught us to go against God's plan. Being led by the Holy Spirit means giving up things that we want for ourselves selfishly rather than what we know is wrong. In this day and age, it's very easy for a child to be led astray by emotions because of its environment and where we are in time. It's easy for a child to be confused. If your child comes up to you and says, I classify as this, and it's not what they are, I think you should be accepting, but teach them the truth and teach them the way that God wanted them to be, rather than just saying no and shunning them away from you and being disappointed. You need to be more embracing and more loving because the world has poisoned their mind. Don't let your child go through with this and continue to do such and then eventually want to kill themselves because they made a permanent change to a temporary mental problem. A lot of transgender people do suffer with mental illness and end up killing themselves. It's very true. When you go through a transgender change and you change your genitalia, you no longer feel the pleasure of sex. You no longer feel that part of your body. So you will always be craving this pleasure that you will never receive, which comes with depression. And me, myself, being an expecting father to a precious baby boy in a couple months, I think as parents, we should not rely in the public school system to teach our child everything that it needs to know. You need to teach the morals to your child. You need to teach them what is right and wrong in your eyes, because you are the biggest influence to a child's mind. And you might not know that, but it is very true. A child's mind is like a sponge. It'll pick up anything. And if you don't correct it, it's just going to build up and inevitably cause failure. And there's a lot of other things that can ruin a child's mind, like watching extremely violent things on TV. See, I was raised by my father to protect the eyes and ears of a child. My dad would sit down on the computer. We'd be watching a movie and he'd mute it at a time where it'd be cursing or quickly skip through a violent scene because he wanted me to be protected. Now, I see a lot of times where that's not as common. I'm not saying that you are willingly neglecting your child's needs of protection, but rather you see it just as entertainment. But to a child's mind, that's reality. And it's very hard to discern the both. So try to make sure that your child stays away from porn, stays away from violence, tries to keep them away from vulgar language so they do not pick that up in their sponge-like mind. We need to protect our children. Gay agenda is taking over. And again, you can say it doesn't exist, but it's true. Not only are they putting chemicals in our food that are turning us gay, which I don't want to get into right now, but we need to honestly just resist the devil and he will flee. The things that I have touched on are sinful acts that are not of God and his divine being. And you can say, oh, God is just all these rules and I can't do anything. It's not about what you can and can't do. It's about what you should and shouldn't do. It's not about what's good and evil. It's not about duality. It's about understanding what we need to do for our souls to prosper, for us to feel the presence of God. I judge no one, though I do worry for the children who do have the transgenders coming into their schools and speaking as if a woman. Why would a grown man perceive himself as a woman to make children feel comfortable around him? I will not have peace about that. Before you as a parent go accepting a community who you view as, okay, they exist, let's be all inclusive and accept them. Before you go into that mindset, take a look at their morals and what they're pushing and how it's going to affect your child. Extremely defensive and we're doing nothing wrong and this is our lifestyle type of mindset will easily lead your child astray as well. You want your child to be in an environment that is healthy, that is open-minded, because the LGBT community for the most part is very closed-minded because they only have the morals of who they are and what they want to be based off feelings, not logic. I'm only making this video because I care for the children. As an adult, you should really do this research on your own. I'm only 20 years old and I already know that I'm not going to allow my child to be indoctrinated by the morals that the world is pushing onto them. So I am telling you now as a parent to look out for your child and prevent them from being brainwashed and doing the same to their children. We all have this mindset that we need to adapt to everything going on around us, but rather than adapting, learn what is blatantly evil. A teacher has already been fired because she didn't meow back at a student who classified as a cat. Like, think about where we are in society. If you are enabling that itself, I have nothing to tell you because you're so brainwashed that there's nothing I can do for you. But as a parent, you must seek knowledge and deliver that knowledge onto your child so they don't have confusion. Because confusion is of the devil. We must grow in knowledge every single day because our youth is threatened, more threatened than we were as children. And I'm sure that you see that. Please don't just do nothing about what's going on around you. Take that time, sit down with your child and educate them so they do not have to learn this somewhere other than home. And if they already are educated on such, educate them more. Let them know that God loves them for who they are. Let them know that they don't need to let emotions change them permanently for a temporary decision. Just like you would tell them that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, so is changing your gender. I'm just worried. I don't want another parent to feel like Abigail Martinez and another sweet girl to have to kill herself because she is confused. I don't think that another boy should have to humiliate himself. Like God said, we are better off jumping off a bridge than hurting a child. I think we should mentally prepare, have notes prepared for this conversation with our child if they are considering the change or telling you that they are gay or anything of the sorts, because I think that the more loving approach you have with the situation rather than just saying no and shaming them, you will have more. Because if you tell a child no, in their adolescent mind, they are instantly going to want to rebel because you said no. But if you come with the loving approach and direct them in the right direction, I think everything will be handled properly. And if the change is due to trauma, I think that you are not being there for them enough. And it may sound cruel, but you have to protect your child's mind. And if you are being burdened with this and you lack God in your life, I think that you should burden this onto God and let God handle this situation. Being Christ-like does mean that we need to accept all individuals, no matter what they are. If we need to accept the trans, the gay, but to accept doesn't mean to support. To accept doesn't mean to allow in the life of your child. It means that we know what it is, we have accepted it, but that doesn't mean we are going to let it control our child like it controlled many others. You see, it's a lot of lack of God. Because if you have God in your life, you aren't led by your emotions. You aren't led by your sin, which is all being gay really is. I know a lot of people who are gay and have turned and have had the testimony that God showed them the light. And I know people also, especially in my family, who are gay, but they still have God in their lives, but it's not fully. They've created a family and everything, but it's just the fact that it's the trauma. I think trauma has a lot to do with why a lot of people transition, because they don't feel comfortable in their flesh anymore. And I think they would be more comfortable with the same sex rather than giving that trust again to the opposite sex. And it's sad. But I think we need to overcome that, because you will feel safe with the right person. You will find love. It is inevitable. It is written in time, but you just need to attract that to yourself by giving out the right energy into the universe and having that come to you, because God will bless us if that's what we deserve. My child is not going to sit down on a laptop or a tablet all day to get their information. I'm going to sit down myself and take it upon myself to teach my child the things it needs to know. And that's what you need to do. You can't just be a neglectful parent, because your child will turn out in a way that you do not want. And I'm not saying that if you do that, you're a shitty parent. But what I'm saying is that you can do better. You need to educate the children. The school isn't going to do it. The world isn't going to do it. You got to do it. Stop lying to your children, saying, oh, they classify as they, them. Well, sweetie, that's how they feel, and you need to accept them for who they are. No, you need to tell them, well, this is how they feel, and sometimes your feelings are going to lead you astray, just like it did for them. They felt this way, and this is how they ended up, but we need to still not judge them, but that's not who we are. Easy as that. That's not who we are. God did not intend for us to be this way, just how people who follow Satanism or people who follow paganism or decide to go into witchcraft, that's not of God. That is rebellious. And if you tell a child that they can't do it, they go to rebel. So be accepting and loving and be delicate with your approach, as you should, dealing with any evil spirit you should with someone who is inflicted with the spirit of confusion. So that's all I got to say today. I hope that this did something for y'all, because I'm sitting back looking, watching all this unfold. I just had to say something. I honestly am worried for the children of this generation, and just because I'm going to do it doesn't mean you have to do it. But if you want your child to not be depressed for a decision that they made because you did not properly educate them, you don't want that guilt. So take it easy, y'all.